Nu, se întâmplă, sigur, sigur, sigur. De reglat în pauză exact.
Good morning. My name is I'm a book publisher and I also teach anthropology at the Faculty of Letters, University of Bucuresti. It's a pleasure to be here. That's the first edition last year. I opened with a presentation about rituals in Spain during Semana Santa in Valladolid. And this year, Mr. Adrian Maduro invited me to present the whole event. I don't want to speak too much. This event is organized by the Bucharest Municipality Museum in partnership with a lot of important institutions here and abroad. And it's somehow very important to have such an event here because according to a long intellectual and historical tradition, Romania was mostly interested in rural life and in village ethnology. Practically, urban anthropology is a new field here, and in my opinion, Adrian Major's book on the outskirts of Bucharest, published, I don't know, 2003, opened this field so not so long ago. As I told you, I don't want to speak too much, so I will introduce you now Ms. Ioana Metita from Vienna, who will present us one important subject: languages, idioms, and relation between minority language from Kalmyk in far west Russia, far east Russia, till the Voyage language in the Balkans and South American Maya language.
Va fi foarte greu to speak français en roman, anglais. On va mélanger tous les langues. First, I prepared the conference in Romanian, so sometimes if there are some interferences, please raise a hand and I will answer gladly to all the questions you might have. Have you closed the presentation maybe? Because it was... Oh, can you hear me if I talk like that, or I should take the microphone? It's okay? Okay. In case you don't hear behind, please tell me, and I'll try to be louder or to take the microphone. I'm going to speak today about a topic which is very related to anthropology, linguistic anthropology, which is mostly used in language documentation in terms of languages that are being endangered, that are dying. So this is very close, and I was thinking which subject might better fit in this setting, where we talk about peripheries and about anthropological peripheries maybe, and I chose to talk about a topic which might best represent some general topics or some general items which are applicable in different research areas of anthropology, not only linguistics. When I say about research participant relationship, yes, I'll have to see the time. I chose this picture because mostly they are the most active research participants, only, not in a very positive way, in terms of anonymous. So let's go to the research participants. We are talking, and I chose to do a cross-linguistic study in terms to see some general topics from different parts of the world, different minorities, different phenomena, and to give some examples which might help us to have a discussion and to have some results in terms of generalities. The agenda. I will make an introduction into the greater research frame, my PhD thesis, which is based on a study, on a comparative studies between the Sephardi in Istanbul, which speak Ladino, an old Spanish language, and the Kalmyks, which speak of Western variety and who live in the Russian diaspora. I will then make a very short introduction into some features related to endangered languages, one factor which we will look closer at today. And then I will go to the research participant relationship from the point of view of the sustainability of empirical research, the questions that you're going to ask about it, related to the community impact, diachronic and synchronic, diachron and synchron, and to the research planning and versus results, because it's not sometimes the case, or always the case, that what we plan is what we get. And then I will show some examples in order maybe to talk about, after this presentation in the discussion time, about the ethics. Because this is something that we do not always agree upon. We have different systems in different countries with different legislations. And then I will go and have a closer look to two of these minorities which I'm researching to give you some insight from my own experience. All the examples are video recorded or audio recorded, photographed by myself or by myself in Venezuela. You receive a copyright and the videos also. So sometimes if some, besides the maps of course. So here we have the location of this great research topic of mine. We have the Sephardi in Turkey and the Kalmyk we see near to the Volga Delta, the city of Astrakhan, northern Caucasus area. So they're very different in terms of religion. The ones are Buddhist, the others are Jews. They're very different in terms of languages. Western Altai, Mongolian Altai language, and the first one, it's a Romance language, so different systems. And of course, different systems of the majorities where they live in. The Turks being Muslims, and the Russian being Orthodox. So these are some things that give some very interesting results. And a closer look, of course, Kalmyk, if you have never heard of, I'd like to show you a brief picture. They are called Mongol. They are to be found in Xinjiang, China. And in Mongolia, for example, we see, and there are many groups, but we will not go very close into it. I just wanted to give you a general topic. And we see here the Sephardi. Where do they come from? So that we understand, they are coming from the Iberian Peninsula, southern Spain. Here. And they have migrated mostly in 1492, in the Annus Mirabilis of the Spanish history, to Balkan countries. They were welcomed by the Sultan Bayezid II, who was a very clever man and took this know-how of the Jewish people to use it for the Ottoman Empire. In my greater research, I'm not looking too much from a perspective like anthropological linguistics, but from a psycho-linguistical perspectives of language awareness and how this language awareness is reflected within different speakers, different types of speakers, those that are competent in language to those that are fully incompetent, to see what happens, how do they relate to language, and how is this related to their own identity, and what happens when languages are lost, because both of these languages are highly endangered languages on the track of disappearing. Maybe not, hopefully. Which are the factors that we look upon from a social linguistic or anthropological view? They are geographical, of course, socio-economic, education, socio-political, standardization, graphization, of course, modernization. Is the language spoken in modern time, or is it a dialect which do not fit to this context? Of course, religion is a very important topic, but not to be forgotten. And what I'm talking about today is the actuators and actants, because sometimes it's a relationship that we undermine, but which stays at the very first step and stage of planning, and which sometimes makes our results to succeed better or to fail, it depends. So I think this is the very, very first stage that we should think about when you're planning to go somewhere and do empirical studies. We have here one quotation of Bucuresti, who speaks about the nature of the interaction and how important this is. Of course, it's not only related to the activities and actants, but this area takes in Bloomberg's research, who is one of the greatest theoreticians of social linguistics also, but not only. And then we have Fishman, who said, because when we say actuators, we think which is our importance as researchers in these minorities. What can we do, or what do these minorities expect? And of course, we talk about different minorities with different needs of involvement. If we talk about the Sephardim in Istanbul, maybe they do not behave equally as the Kalmyks, who are very devoted, who are not well known, who suffered from the Soviet repression, who were deported, and who do not have contact with Western Europe. So maybe when a Western European comes, they have different expectations of how one's involvement should be. Here one topic, in order to reveal that what I was just saying better and sustain it with some data. As part of the research, we became aware of how our own identities, the identities of the researcher, shape what we notice as researchers, and likely also what we don't, as well as shaping of how others relate to us and how we shape what others say and or do. So it's very true, and this is what I'm trying to go into today. The working parameters in terms of the third point, we're going to discuss research and participant relationship. The contacting the participants in these speech communities is one of the most time-intensive parts of the research. You are there, the preparation, of course, of the questionnaires, but sometimes the questionnaires, you are always able to change them, to improvise a bit according to the needs of the research. But this you cannot improvise, because once you get there, it's very expensive usually, and if you do not have the person that can help you, the person that would introduce you to the community, you might lose a lot of money, a lot of effort, and you might just go without data. We'll have to be aware of a well-established scope of the impact that we want to have on the academic community, because how do we relate, how do we present the data, and how is the relationship from the speaker to within the results or through the results, and how do I present it, and what role do the speakers play of these languages? How am I going to present them? And as I was saying, that each community has their own parameters of approach towards the researcher and different needs, in terms of distance and closeness, in terms of acceptance, rejection. Then we'll have another point, which is importantly attention for the diversity of participants. I have very different profiles of speakers. Of course that I need to adjust and to adapt my interviews according to these different types of speakers with different competence and knowledge of the language. So what I'm asking some, it's not valid for the others. And this must very well be prepared in advance, because this influences also the impact I'm having on them, or the result. They might be just surprised if I'm going to ask something which is not fitted to their profile, and there might be this rejection. Working typology, it's very good before going to field research to establish all this. Of course, the methods, which I'm not going into. Am I going to do quantitative, qualitative data? But I'm not going to go into that very much because I think this aspect it's very important. But also a working parameter in terms of what effect I want to achieve. The methods to collect what kind of data with what kind of speaker, what we just said, and very important to balance the demands from the academic world with the demands from the part of the community. Some very, very brief things to see some kind of recording methods, multimedia recording methods, which are normally used in linguistic anthropology if you're talking to make the bridge. Nowadays, we just cannot go. It's not acceptable, although it's still done to go with an audio recorder, because what do we want actually? It's a data only for our own research, and if yes, it's very perishable. It has no future. This data will go much more into it, and then to capture it, to save it, to transcode it, of course. Very important, and what I was seeing that also Adriana Julu, who was so kind to invite me here today, archiving. This is very good. This is very important. Transcribing in such a professional way that all the scientists have access to it, maybe. The cutting and then working. If we have time, I will show you which is my approach. So once again, video recording, audio recording, annotation, primary data, transcription, word by word, idiomatic translation, and then secondary data, metadata, which is very important in terms of ethics. The speaker has to be aware of what he's doing, which is your research plan, your research scope. He has to sign a petition. Does he agree? And to sign a petition, in which context he agrees, which is not to be left from there. And then the workflow. Here you see something that helps What do I want? Do I want that my research is accessible? Do I want it beyond my own research and beyond the boundaries of my own research? And this is one way of working with data, different topics, that helps to archive it in a better way. And it helps it to be more sustainable, to be accessible. So whenever we're going to do empirical research, look what advancements in terms of medias, in terms of programs, are there in order to adapt it. The first example is a dialect, which is called Ginza. And I'm sorry, I cannot spell it very right, and which is in Guatemala, in this area of Petén Lake, Biosphere Reserva de Trasperamania. And we were there, and we seen in the 70s, 80s, American universities have tried to revitalize this dying language. I made an interview with the last speaker from the community. There is no preparation. They did not prepare this relationship very well. And what else he says? I'm not going to show you the videos because it's very time consuming and I wanted to show you more data. But I can read some of the extracts for those who understand Maya. He's Spanish. He speaks in Spanish, but of course he's the last competent speaker of Maya. And what happened? The Americans were there, they gave money, they gave limited funds without building an infrastructure for language revitalization. They took some young people that did not know the language, some old people that knew the language. They decided to pay more those that had the degree but did not speak the language, and to pay less for those that they were fully competent Mayan, Mayeros, it's 1 year. And the thing is that the Mayeros were very disappointed because they said, how are we paid less if we are the meisters, if we know the language, if we teach it? And that destroyed the whole relationship in the community. Some of them had to move, there were some killings even, if you can imagine. So this is one instance of an effect that one can have, and he's saying. So when they did like that, they did different payment. Entonces, los mayores empezaron a hacer reuniones, pero después ellos hablaron el maya, empezaron a dar el maya como era, porque ellos eran mayores efectivos. So he very much stresses they were the actual Mayan speaker, they should have had the right. And only in this way he continues here. Lo malo que hizo la academia, the bad thing that the academia did was to put wrong stress on the wrong priorities. Not building an infrastructure that is sustainable, we were talking about sustainability, but they were thinking in very short time to have results, but which will have no future. So revitalization apparently doesn't work, as we see. We will go to some other communities, Voyage, I'm sure you have heard, because they speak a variety of old Romanian, combined with Serbian, with Hungarian, Croatian sometimes, and with Greek, of course. They're to be found in the area of the village. There are two villages, and they were called Muncen, Argelen. What happened there? They had no writing, of course. The contacts with Romania and with Romanian Academy was non-existent. Nobody knew that what they were. They were discovered at the beginning of the 20th century. And of course they had no writing system. And they were living together with the Locatar, which are Romani-speaking people. And they kind of like did not know what they are. Somebody woke up in 1994, some scientist from the communities. She had a very good degree, which was difficult for this minority which was suppressed and who lived in the tents and so forth. But somebody did and studied from the Argelen community. So that would be like kind of there. And what happened? They had the idea, let's do, before the Hungary joined the European Union. Oh, I'm sorry. Before Hungary joined the European Union, they thought it might be very good to show the Europeans that we know how to deal with the gypsies. So what they did, they founded Gandhi Gymnasium, like Mahatma Gandhi, after his name, and they did a half of the high school in Romanian language, and the other half in Romani, which I did not now show. This is the high school, Dumnezeu v-a dus aici. So we see the Hungarian graphic used for this Romanian variety. The thing thing is, the water villages, Muncen Ardelen, the researcher was from the Argelen community. The Muncen community had no representatives. So that means the Muncen were double as much, 1,300 speakers. The Argelen, 300 speakers. From those 300 speakers, they did the school books, like in this dialect. And the Muncen, they were very pissed off, I'm sorry for the expression, but they, I quote, because they said, no, this is not our dialect. And they would not go to this high school just because it sounded very strange. And they were like not willing to learn the language of the other village, which is close, of course, but not theirs. So we see one other instance how researchers' profile, biography, can influence these language communities. Here is one example so that you can imagine what they were into, the coșari. And here on uncâine, 7 câini, mult, multă, mulci, mulce, cățelul nostru e de 7 luni, nostru e de 7 luni îl. So, this biography, initiations of conflicts, the teachers were all trained in this variety and not the other, which led to an acceleration of language switch, so language loss. Here you have another instance of how the researcher can influence the language community. I was going there, and this minority was asking, please help us. So what do? Do you want to stay objective, not influence in any way? Do you want to participate? And how then is the strategy of subjectivity-objectivity relationship? So this was not very easy. But I did, because this isn't my contact technique with some other people, and I could have an observer view far closer in this community by participating. And then, of course, one should see like the rating, like how do you manage with being outsider and insider? How much are you influenced? And I think the solution would be track changing, not only to use research as participants, but also to try to use different methods and combine qualitative with quantitative. I think that would be a way out. I said I will give you a diachronic example. At the beginning of the 20th century, and I will take like, do I have 5 more minutes? Okay. At the beginning of the 20th century, there was such a case that the Sephardim, the Spanish-speaking Jews, of which we have many in Bucharest and not only, and in the Balkans, Bulgaria, Sofia, Thessaloniki, which was called Israel of the Balkans, in Turkey, they were not unknown in Spain. And there was one researcher who, on a boat on the Danube, met one person speaking Spanish. He was Angel Pulido, the father of philosopherism. And he heard somebody from Bucharest, who was Berejano, and he heard speaking Spanish. He said, oh, that's amazing. I will look into it. He looked into it, and he developed a whole strategy. He published so many books until the second half of the 20th century, where his role was to interpret and to promote the Sephardism, a Ladino language, as it is also called, Sephardic, in Spain, but to promote it as a Spanish language, which was not right, of course. Enrique Benahano expressed his gratitude. We see how they positioned themselves to this research. He said, si leía en mi corazón cuanto se arde del deseo de besar de las piedras de aquella patria, regar mis ojos con el polvo de aquella tierra donde duermen los huesos de mis abuelos. So he expressed his love for the Spanish earth, what Berejano, what Pulido also was drawing, but also rose a lot of conflicts in the Sephardic communities all around because they started introducing chairs that didn't just in Spanish language, and this also contributed to more language loss and to the Sephardic community wanting to be integrated and their language to be lost. We have one example from Siberia. They can show on that because it's just to see that sometimes what you've done is not what you achieve. Professor Telekal from the University of Vienna, with which I was together in this field research. We were planning 2 days and going 2 days to this shaman. The thing was that he knew from the very beginning, he said, yes, I want to be interviewed. We spent 2 days going there. He didn't want to. What do we do? Instead, he wanted to control us, to control our body, to to do is how do you react in those situations? So maybe one strategy would be to just accept, maybe you lost time, but maybe you have a chance to go there once again. Sometimes you are taken as a journalist. I was sent in Kalmykia. We said, well, you have a camera. Can you record for us at the temple? Sanjay Lama, the spiritual leader, they are Buddhists, asked me, but I have no experience in journalism. What should I do? So said, it doesn't matter, just do it. So I had to spend several days on the trip with people as a journalist, which I was not. Here we see, in terms of ethics, which is the last topic I'm going to speak about, how are we treating the people? Where is the border of sensibility? How far can we go in asking the information? And sometimes they say, yes, you can go, but you know, there is the border. For example, she was trying 3 days, I was there while she was working this, to report one song of her lost husband, but she couldn't bring it because she was always crying. And she tried hard, and I said, please don't try it anymore, I don't want to make you cry. But she wanted, so I was like all the time, see her crying, and this is also like, and then how do you present that? How do you go? Do they want to stay anonymous? Do the university, like the University of Vienna, it asks me, you need to stay anonymous, you need to anonymize your data. But the speakers don't want. They said, we don't want to be anonymous if you're going to record us, if we have faces and we want to be shown. So how do I do? If the legislation tells me. So maybe one should find some petitions and to try to put together the speaker and the legislation community on which you were acting as a researcher. Here we have, I said, please don't, I don't want to autograph you. Yes, 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 so they were half naked. We want, and we wanted to show that. We live like that. So there is one just to have. But for example, this, which is very relevant normally, to show pictures of naked, usually. But this can also give us some clues of the dynamics. For example, he's a Catholic. He's not a believer, he says, but he has a temple on his chest. So that means his interior, or straight as up the psychology, like the deep psychology, is that actually he identifies with a religion and not with a shamanism, as he claimed. And there also, do I record spiritual practices or not? Here we are in Greece, and I did not want to record this. I said, please, could you take the shirt? He was singing Kolinda, some Christmas songs. And I said, it doesn't fit for the camera, please, if you could, and very careful not to disturb him. He was like very, very angry. He's happy. He took the skirt, but he was not happy. So he did not want to sing for me anymore. So I lost one very good opportunity by acting stupidly and asking him, because he says we were walking like this in the street, so that's nothing peculiar, you should show that. And I insisted, because I really wanted to show him, but he did not want anymore. So some concluding remarks to see how it went for me in Kalmykia. For example, in Kalmykia, my relationship, research participant, was in terms of access, like an easy access, chain sampling. People would send me to some other people, and I could get some very, in an easy way, some very good data. Because there is a lack of research, or unilateral research by Russians, and it is not westernized. People do not have access to the material. So they have no settings, no expectation, and it's very easy for me. Whereas in the therapy, access is only used. I had to go 2 years on a row and still had no interview. Because people are very skeptical. So how do you do? How much time do you have? How much money? And how much do you want this? Because many times you really have to give up. There is a research inflation specific to settings and expectations which you have to deal with. Then how do I do as a woman? Because in Kalmykia they still steal women, so you can be stolen and not be able to go back for 7 years. They still have this. So as a very young girl, 24, I was there, 23, they would not let me go alone on research. I always had to have people from the temple. But people from the temple sometimes did not agree with the views of the speakers I was saying, said they were ashamed, and how could you ask